You know, I think it was Bob Marley that said some people know how to feel the rain and other people just get wet. And I think that's a good thing to consider as we're preparing for our lesson on water. There's a lot of water that is free and clean, and you can take it into your body and it'll keep you healthy. That's rainwater. We're going to talk about how to source rainwater properly. We're also going to be looking at boiling water and the things you need to do to make sure that works properly. And then we've got some water filters and purifiers. There's a huge difference between a filter and a purifier, and we need to look at that as well. So thanks for joining me for water purification. Now, the water sources that flow or rest upon the earth, things like rivers and streams and creeks and ponds and lakes and all the different ways that water congregates on the earth. In today's world, we must consider that those water sources are contaminated and approach them with that in mind. Now, if we're in a survival situation and we don't have any supplies to be able to boil water or purify or filter or something, I'm going to show you some ways to get the cleanest water you possibly can out here. And then we're going to go through the process of looking at all those apparatuses that are going to help us. So let's take a walk and I'll show you what I mean. What causes us problems for water is when it spends a lot of time flowing on the earth. The reason for that is because the longer and farther that water is flowing or sitting on the earth, there's more opportunity for contaminants to get into it. It's not a great source, but a better source is something like this, where water comes out of the side of a hill and you can get as close to what we say as getting close to the source of where it comes out of that hill. Now, this might look a little rough here, but because downstream there's a good chance for contaminants down there, whereas there's not as much opportunity for contaminants coming in right out of this hillside. So if I can find water like this, this is the water I'm going to gather. Let me go show you something that's really interesting and you'll see what I mean. And this is exactly the type of spot that I wanted to show you, because we've got a really nice flowing stream here. Everything looks, for the most part, clean, looks clean. But just on the other side up there, and you may be able to see this through the woods, is an open field. And in that open field is a place where horses are. And those horses get into this creek up there. They use the bathroom in this creek. So this water has a lot of contaminants in it. Now, the first way I want to show you to gather rainwater is very time consuming. But in a survival situation, this might be all that you have. I'm going to utilize a 4x4 gauze for my first aid kit, but you could use a bandana. You could actually use a t-shirt or something that you felt was relatively clean, and use it to go around the vegetation in the morning and get dew, or even during the rain. This is one way you can collect rain. And what I'm doing is just slowly but surely filling up the gauze with water. What I can do when I get enough, I don't think that is enough. What I can do when I get enough is I can actually squeeze that into a cup, some sort of container, or squeeze it right directly into my mouth, because this is clean water. The only problem is you want to make sure that whatever vegetation you're getting this off of, that it's vegetation that's not toxic. Obviously, you don't want to do this on poison ivy leaves. You want to do this, in this particular case, this is a beech tree. So you can tell this is getting a little bit damp, not enough yet. So again, what I'm looking for is just water droplets on these leaves. Again, not a toxic species. This is a beech tree again. And as you can tell, as I wipe down, I'm actually leaving a lot of water on the leaf. That means this is saturated. So once I have that saturated, I can actually squeeze this out into a cup, or squeeze that directly into my mouth, and that'll help get me hydrated. This is one of the things that we've taught United States military personnel how to do. It's been done in military SEER schools for decades. It's a really useful tool. You don't have to have very much kit items in your kit, just a 4x4 gauze or a bandana. Another way to use a bandana is to actually tie a bandana to the back of your leg or to the back of your boot and walk through a grassy area that, again, does not have toxic species in it first thing in the morning and gather dew, because dew is clean water as well. So let's go set up a tarp and a garbage bag. I'll show you how to collect some rainwater, and then we'll move on to our purifiers and filters. Now, if you've done any sort of survival training at some point in time, or seen it on TV, or seen books, you've probably read of a solar still. And the way a solar still works is that you dig a hole in the earth, you line it with a bag or plastic, and then you let condensation form. That is a colossal waste of time. That is an old school method used for desert survival training, not where we have an environment like this. Let me show you a lot easier way that produces a lot more water. Take the garbage bag that I've been telling you that you need to add to your survival kit. All you need is this garbage bag and some sort of woody stemmed or herbaceous plant that has green leaves on it. And just use something that does not have toxicity that is in it, like poison ivy or poison sumac. What you do is you take your garbage bag, and a clear one is best, and put it around all the leaves that you can get in here. All the branches that you can. And what you do is, if you have a piece of cordage, you gather it up on the end and you just simply tie it off. If you want to, you can just tie it off just like you do your shoestrings. It's pretty easy to remember that. Now, the beautiful thing is that science happens. So leaves are constantly putting off water. So when water comes off of these leaves, it can't go anywhere. It cannot escape at all. It is stuck inside this bag. So once that water comes off, it'll start to gravitate to the bottom due to gravity. And what's going to happen is you'll have probably in a day, this is going to take a very extended period of time, a day, maybe a cup of water, depending upon what species of plant that you're looking at and utilizing. Now, here's a caution for you. I'm a big fan of doing this in practice, and we do it a lot in training. But what's going to happen is that if we do this in an area like this, this is going to kill this branch. So you don't want to do this in a yard where it's a beautiful yard tree or something like that. You want to go to a forest, go with somebody that knows what kind of trees you can do this, and it does not hurt the forest, because this branch will eventually die if that water doesn't continue to come off of it. So that's a caution, but this works exceptionally well. Now, this is the reason I set these tarps up the way that I do. It's not raining right now, but we actually got some video of rain hitting this tarp and then coming down. So what I've done is I've set the tarp up so that it funnels water when it's coming down right to a cup. Any water that's going to hit that tarp is getting funneled in this area. Now, in this particular case, I'm using a stake to prop up the cup so it doesn't turn over, stabilizing everything. And as you can see from the video, water has been filtered in right into this cup. And again, because it's rainwater and it's been collected from this tarp into this particular cup, which I know is clean, it's clean water, I have no problem drinking it. I'm gonna go get our filters and our purifiers. We'll talk about each. I'm gonna find another water source out here in the middle of the woods, show you how to function each and every one of them so that you can use them properly for your safety when getting water. I've got my big blue bag of water supplies. So we're gonna pull these out right here next to the creek, and I'll show you how to use each and every one of them. So I've got a bunch of supplies, as you can tell here. Let's talk about each of them. The first part of this is very important, so listen to me. Whenever you want to go hiking, whenever you want to go into a wilderness, you want to make sure that you take water with you. And on your way there, drink water so you are hydrated. I train a lot of search and rescue personnel, and one of the things they're always telling me is they pick people up who have never taken any water into the woods with them. So anytime you're going hiking, drink water on the way there and have water with you as you go into the woods. One way that I like to do that is I like to have a metal water bottle. And if I don't have a metal water bottle, I at least carry a metal cup, and the water bottle will nest inside the cup. Here's why. The best way to clean contaminants from water is to boil the water. Now, boiling water is not just boiling water. You want to get it to a rolling boil, meaning you'll see the bubbles that are coming up real big. Not tiny bubbles, but big bubbles. It looks like it's rolling right on top of the water. That's a rolling boil of boiled water. That's when you've got it to the temperature that you need it to be to clean the water. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can collect water with our cup, and we can use several devices. Let me show you how to do that. All right, so we're going to talk about filters first. Now, filters are good for bacterial contaminants and getting sedimentation out, but they don't actually purify water. One of the most inexpensive and easiest to use is a carbon filter. And what you have inside of here is a piece of carbon that allows water to pass through, but contaminants cannot pass through the carbon. And you're going to utilize this just like a straw. So even if this was not clean water and I wasn't sure about it, I could stick this directly down in there. Now this is really important. When you take that first couple drinks that come through, some of the carbon sedimentation will come apart and it'll be real dark. So watch what I do. So the carbon sedimentation doesn't hurt you unless you ingest a lot of it. So it's not a big problem. But once you get that done, you can drink through here just like a straw. And it's cleaning the water as it comes through. Now this one is a Sawyer, and this is actually the big Sawyer. They make a Sawyer Mini that I have in my pack, that I keep in my pack, and I hardly ever use it unless I need an emergency. But you use it similarly as you do the carbon filter. What you have in here is a ceramic filter. And so you put this into your water and drink through this portion just like a straw. And again, you're getting clean water. Also, this comes with a squeeze bag. Let me show you how that works. So this is a squeeze bag for the Sawyer. First thing we're going to do is we're going to fill it up. Then the bottom of the Sawyer filter is threaded. So you can put that on the squeeze system, the squeeze bag. You can turn upside down and gravity will actually pull some water out. So you can hang this in a tree and water comes out. Or if you have a water bottle that you keep clean water in, then you can squeeze it out and get water out a lot quicker. Or you can drink straight through that system. And again, the water that's here is dirty, but the water that goes through the filter is clean. So you don't want to contaminate what you get on the bag with what goes in your mouth. So be careful when you do something like that. Now the next one that's really easy to use and pretty cool actually is a backpacker's pump or a hiker pump. This happens to be made by Katadyn, but you can get MSR, you can get all sorts of different manufacturers that make these. Several pieces of this. First off, you have a pre-filter. Inside there you have a screen, and outside of that you have a plastic piece that also filters out the large sedimentation, sticks, leaves, and stuff of that nature. What happens is you're going to pump this portion of the device. It's going to pull water up through this tube. It's going to go into the bottom of the filter. The filter canister is right inside here. It filters the water as it comes through, and then what comes out this side is clean water. So one of the things that's really important when storing this is you don't want to store the clean water tube right next to the dirty water tube. You want to keep them separate. So to do that, it's really simple. This is actually really cool too. See this piece right here? That's a flotation device so that the filter doesn't sit right on the bottom. So I put this in the water. Now with that down in the water, I'll hold this right here so you can see how this works, but then I can put this down into a water bottle. So literally pump, and again it's pulling water out of that small source, and that's clean water coming through. So if I want to, I can put this into a cup, water bottle. If I didn't have either, I could put that right into my mouth. And what happens there, again, is clean water is coming out. This is a fantastic device to get a lot of water quickly. And the other beautiful part about this is that I don't have to get right down next to the water. I can be off the water and don't run the risk of falling into the water to get water. So the next one is some sort of water treatment drops. These just happen to be Aqua Mira. Again, there's several different sources and brands. But what you're going to utilize here are drops. And it's very important that when you get these, that the directions I'm getting ready to give you are just some fundamental ways of looking at these. There's very specific directions. Those are listed on the bottle themselves on how you utilize these so they are effective. But in this particular case, you have a cap that's actually a mixing cap, and you're going to use part A, you're going to use part B into our mixing cap, and you're going to let that mix and it creates a solution that you can then put into some water to help treat the water so it's clean as best it can be. It actually doesn't kill the bacteria in there, it just makes it inert. What happens with these bacterial contaminants is you get them in your gut, in your belly, in your stomach, and when you get them in there, they multiply, and that's what makes you sick. So almost all water is going to have some sort of bacterial contaminant in it, and what this does is it keeps it from continuing to grow. So that is a very useful tool. But again, if you get something like this, make sure you read the directions, because all the different manufacturers, that I can't name them all, do things just a slightly bit different. This next piece of equipment is a SteriPen, and I'm not a fan of these at all. Let me explain why. First off, they run on battery, so if the batteries die, then you don't have a device that's going to work. And the way this works, when it does work, is you turn it on, you put it down in the water, and you stir it around. And when you stir it around, it again makes the bacteria in the water inert. The problem is that if there's any sedimentation in the water, even sedimentation that you cannot even see with your naked eye, then it's not going to be effective in that bottle of water. So I'm not a fan of these. I say this because this would be a way I can help you save some money, and if you already have one of these, I'm going to recommend that you use something else. Now, one of the things that I get a lot of people say, well, I've been utilizing one of those for years and I've never had any trouble. The reason you've not had any trouble is because our water sources in the United States of America, for the most part, are rather clean. And so you don't run into a lot of bacterial or even viral contaminated water, particularly viral contaminated water, in a backcountry setting. So that's one of the reasons that people don't have much trouble. But I'm a big fan. If I could pick one of these pieces of equipment, I would get a Sawyer or a Sawyer Mini. That would be the one that I would go with, because that is the one that I've gone with and I use it all the time. So this has been a look at water purification and filtration. Purification is going to happen with some sort of chemical, whether it's iodine or bleach. We talked about that in staying at home and bugging in and how to make sure your water is clean. But here are some apparatuses and devices that you can utilize here in the backcountry next time you go on a hike, camping, or backpacking.